houses with little squares. They used to love to depict the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the people kingdom. They used to love to depict those in their drawings, in their artwork, in their cave paintings, decorating their robes and whatnot. Let's deal with dragons, because every culture in the world, every civilization that has ever existed had a dragon story, had dragon stories. Yeah, that mountain over there had dragons in it. We didn't go up to that mountain. And they told these stories as if they were true for years. Now, philanthropists, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, philanthropist, but anyway, people who study other civilizations, other peoples, they look at those and they say, yes, the people were afraid. They heard noises up on the hill. The medicine man concocted a story and said, don't go to that mountain because there's dragons there with big teeth and they fly and fire shoots out of their mouth, and the children go, oh, can't go up there. And so they perpetuate that myth all throughout. I don't think so. I don't think that with every civilization saying the exact same thing, that they all believed in dragons. I think they were telling the truth. I think they were describing exactly what they saw. Here is an image of, this is called the Dragon of Marduk. This is a dragon. Here we have a wall painting from a monastery. This is this is a flying dragon eating a human being. Now that's scary right there. I mean, that could be very scary, and you could kind of see how maybe this would be used as a myth to scare little kids. You remember the movie that came out a few years ago called The Village, where the people were trying to protect a secret about their village, the fact that they were living in the 1800s, but they weren't really, because it was the 20th, 21st century or whatever. And so they scared all the little kids against going out. You can't leave the village. So they created this creature, big looking monster type thing that would scare everybody into staying into the village. And so some of the people would say, well, that's what that is. But you have a similar description in every place around the world of what these creatures look like. Here's another one here, just one of these old ancient depictions of a dragon, fire coming out of its mouth. It has wings. It looks like it has horns. And you see that similarity. The Japanese and the Chinese, notice this here. The Japanese and the Chinese all had a dragon story or a dragon myth. They believed that the king of China was the dragon king. Everything in the Asian continent or the Asian islands, Korea, China, Japan, other of the Asian countries, they all have an idea of dragons and how important they are to their culture. So rather than saying I believe their culture is based upon a myth, I believe that they were seeing something that the Bible clearly tells you is true, including, I mean, take a look at this dragon. This is, I think, a Japanese depiction of one. And notice that coming, looks like out of its mouth is a great big, goodness gracious, a great ball of fire coming out of this dragon's mouth. As we do our study in the Scriptures, you're going to see that the Bible matches this picture. And this is, I mean, what I'm telling you is that there are pictures of dragons. Just because they were drawn by hand rather than the process of photochemicals on a piece of paper doesn't negate the fact that these people were all seeing creatures that apparently we don't see anymore. We don't see dragons running around. We don't see things with flames shooting out of their nostrils. We don't see anything like that. But these people did. The Bible describes them. So you have to ask the question, what was being described? What was it that these people were seeing? Now, I want to go back and reference a video I did last year called Man Walked with Dinosaur. And I really enjoyed doing this particular video. And I'm enjoying doing this one too, because this is sort of what I've studied all of my life. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be able to talk about this. Man Walked with Dinosaur. The scientists, the evolutionists will tell you that the universe is 14 billion years old. Earth is 15 some odd million, I don't know how many years old Earth is. They tell you that, that dinosaurs roamed the earth 65 million years ago, and that man only came on the scene about 100, 200,000 years ago. And there's no way in the world that man ever walked with dinosaur. And yet the Bible talks about it. We'll read those verses. And people throughout history have had encounters with creatures that were described as dragons or leviathans or sea monsters or behemoths or things like that. These are all Bible terms. The people throughout centuries all over the world have described these creatures and have stories about encounters with them. And here's something that we understand. The word dinosaur that we usually describe now, these bones that the paleontologists are digging up everywhere, we call them dinosaurs. That phrase was coined in the mid-1800s when they started really digging these things up. Dinosaur means thunder lizard. Now that's interesting. The idea of a lizard. Lizards are reptiles. You'll see that, I believe from the scriptures, when the Bible uses the term serpent, it is referring to anything of a reptilian nature. So the phrase dinosaur means thunder lizard or a thunder reptile of something, is basically similar to what the Bible is telling you and describes as a serpent or a dragon. Now this King James Bible was translated in 1611. And so the terminology of dinosaur, and even some of the scientific names, Brontosaurus and Tyrannosaurus rex and things like that, those terms did not come about until after the mid-1800s. And before that, 1611, when you had the Bible translated, the King James Bible translated into English, and you go back to the original languages of Hebrew and Greek and a little bit of Aramaic, you have vernacular words being used to describe these creatures. And I believe that the universe was created in 6 days, 6,000 years ago. I believe, according to the scriptures, on day 6 is when every land-based animal was created. The Bible says in Genesis 1:24, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and God saw that it was good. And then on the same day, God created man. And you're going to see a description in the book of Job about Behemoth and Leviathan, and you're going to see that they were created on the exact same day that Adam was created. So therefore, man and these dragons existed together. And they drew pictures of them. They put them on cave walls. They had stories about them. Here's a graphic from an old book I found in Google Books from 1851 called From the History of All Nations. And the author of this book is going into detail to describe the languages and the cultures and the histories of nations around the world, and how all of them had records of these huge monsters, these beasts, these mysterious creatures that, if we look at them now, they look like what we would refer to as dinosaurs. But again, they didn't have terms like Dinosaurus and Brachiosaurus and Brontosaurus. They didn't have those terms like that. They called them by different names, and they carved them into stones. They carved their images into walls. They made temples about these mysterious creatures, and they were forever etched into the history of the world. And you have to understand, and I believe a lot differently than the paleontologists and the geologists and the evolutionary scientists and all of these people. I believe quite differently from them. They say, well, this layer here was 2 million years ago, this layer here was 20 million years ago. But here's the thing, they all have things that are in the 20 million layer that shouldn't be there. You know what they do with evidence like that? They set it aside and say, well, that doesn't count because it doesn't match what we say. And so I differ quite differently from these people in that I believe in a very, very simple idea. The earth has been in existence for about 6,000 years, and these creatures coexisted with mankind at one point. And so we have their descriptions. We have accounts written into the narratives, the stories, and the mythologies of the day. We also have, as I mentioned before, we also have stones that are carved. These are the Ica stones from South America. There's several of them. And most of them denote, here is a man sitting on the back of what looks like a brontosaurus, or some sort of long-necked, four-legged, long-tailed, behemoth-looking dinosaur. Here is another one of someone on the back of, this used to be one of my favorite dinosaurs in the whole world, on the back of a triceratops. Notice the three horns. Notice the bone plating behind the head, and the vertebrae, the back sticking up there. That's pretty much when the scientists and the paleontologists dug up the bones of these animals. They looked at their skeletal structure, and then they formed an image of the body around it. That is exactly what they came up with. And these stones go back, I don't know how many thousands of years. People saw these creatures. They interacted with them, these behemoth-looking creatures. Here's another one. It has several different dinosaur-looking creatures. One you can see sort of a Tyrannosaurus there in the background. And Stegosaurus, that was another one of my favorites too. Here is an image from the temple of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Here is what looks like a very, very long snake-like creature. And on the same building, you see a Stegosaurus. This in Cambodia, very, very jungle nation, a lot of forest, a lot of jungle there. A habitat of mystery, mysterious creatures that can barely be seen. And here, this temple of Angkor Wat, this pagan temple built in Cambodia. I don't remember how long ago it was. It was built. It's now overgrown by the jungle. It has been abandoned for so long that the jungle has overgrown this temple. And yet, when they were building this temple and they designed this, they didn't have the paleontologists who drew pictures of Stegosaurus so they could say, hey, that would be cool to put on our temple, man. They would say it in Cambodian or whatever language they said. But they knew what this creature was, and they put its imagery into their temple. Here is, there's been a series of tunnels located in South America near Ecuador. This was the inscription on one of those tunnels. Look, you have a four-legged, dinosaur-looking, dragon-looking thing with the little dorsal sitting on top of its neck and its back. Here is a graphic from, I believe this is in Utah, rock paintings, a petroglyph is what they call it. That looks like the image of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Here's another one. You see circled there the image of a man. And you see there in the bottom the image of what looks like a long-necked, long-tailed, large-bodied, four-legged dinosaur that I believe the Bible calls it by its real name, or the Bible calls it by the name that was used during that time. Let's look at the description of God. Now, we're going to go to the book of Job. The book of Job is, according to what we know, the oldest book of the Bible. Job more than likely was a contemporary of Abraham. They probably lived at about the same time. If you read the book of Job, you'll